This is the best of the regulars with Jordan and Colin on Talk Sports Radio, Extra 90.5.
News, sports, weather headlines. Be sure to keep checking extrapeterborough.ca. Visit us on Facebook too. Facebook.com/extra905FM. I am very excited about this. It's been a while since we checked in with our legal expert. You know him. You love him. He's Brian Goldfinger.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Brian Goldfinger, Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Looking stylish as always. How you doing today, Brian?
Not so good after last night, but otherwise I'm doing well.
Man, I tell you what, that was an ugly night, wasn't it? I know you're a huge Toronto Raptors fan.
It was described by one podcaster on Raptors Republic as a ball full of sad.
It just looks like they don't have the fight, right? Like, do you see the same sort of body language? You were kind of referencing it. It kind of looks like that Washington series a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they don't have that look in their eyes. It looks like they lost it. They lost all hope. They lost all confidence. And I think tomorrow's game 4, is going to be really telling because if they lose game 4, if they lose the series, what do you do with the team? That's my question for you guys. What do you do with the team if they lose?
I look at a guy like Kyle Lowry.
He's out the door.
He's done some great stuff for this team, Brian, but you can't give him max money. With the injuries, the tread on the tires, and how he's performed in the playoffs. I don't know if I'd offer Kyle Lowry any money.
What do you do with the coach?
Gas time. Absolutely. I would move in a different direction, to be perfectly honest. I think, Jason Kidd, this would be the second time that I think he's out coaching Dwayne Casey in a series.
I don't even think he's out coaching him. He's just saying, this is what we do. We're not really changing that much. You guys can't adjust. And my thing with Dwayne Casey, I want to relate it to car insurance, all right, and personal injury law. This is where I'm taking this. So recently there was a report that was released. It's called the Marshall Report, and that was commissioned by the Ontario government to look at car insurance. And it's been a lot in the news lately saying that Ontario's system is flawed. And I think everybody knew this. And the Marshall Report tries to do a one-size-fit-all kind of approach to car accident law, kind of like WSIB. Workers' compensation. And WSIB right now is the subject of a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit because people aren't very happy with WSIB. The way it works is a one-size-fit-all approach to your injuries. You injure an arm, it's worth $5,000. You injure a leg, it's worth $10,000. But injuries in people aren't like that. People heal differently. I think Dwayne Casey's kind of like this Marshall Report in the sense that he has a playbook, and the playbook is very rigid. It's a one-size-fit-all playbook, and he doesn't adjust very well. And Jason Kidd's just throwing curveballs left, right, and center. And Dwayne Casey with this one-size-fit-all playbook, like the Marshall Report, he doesn't know how to adjust.
Man, that just blew my mind right there, I tell you. Brian, legal analyst, Brian Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. I want to get your thoughts, by the way, on some motorcycle and bike accident safety coming up here in a second. But I tell you what, yeah, I would move in that direction because you would look, I think you've exhausted what the core can do. Kyle Lowry, love him, love what he brings. He can be the player of the game on a Wednesday night against Charlotte. I don't necessarily like what he brings to the table in the playoffs because you got to do it night in and night out. And, I mean, okay, he scores 4 points one game, then he's got 22, and then he's too content to kind of be a wallflower in a lot of these games. And actually, DeMar DeRozan, I mean, he's been fantastic, averaged over 27 a game throughout the regular season. But even I'm looking at the numbers last night, and I know things weren't going well, but if you're an elite player like that, you figure you could scrap your way to 15, 16 points, somehow get to the free throw line even when you're not shooting. I mean, 8 points, 2 rebounds, no assists. Like, how engaged is a guy like DeMar DeRozan last night?
I don't think it's for lack of trying. I just think that the Raptors' offensive sets are very simple. We know a pick and roll is coming.
Yes.
But the pick and roll invites a double team, and unfortunately the Bucks are so long and lanky. All their players are like Gumby. You know, they can all move their feet really well. They're all really long, and it just invites a double team whenever you set up the pick and roll, and Dwayne Casey doesn't know how to adjust. At least when Terrence Ross was here, we ran one play for Terrence Ross. I don't know if you guys remember it, but he would run around like about 4 screens and shoot a 3-point shot, and that was a set play, and it kind of worked. The Raptors, now that we got don't have Terrence Ross anymore, we don't have that play in our playbook anymore.
Man, you might be the one guy who's lobbying to get Terrence Ross back in this lineup.
Not at all, but it just shows you the lack of flexibility with respect to their play calling, and that's, I think, the issue in this series. So if the Raptors kind of think outside of that one-size-fit-all playbook, I think they might still have a chance. Having said that, no, I don't think it's going to happen because I know Dwayne Casey.
But look, I think Raptors fans would have been happy if they at least played a series later in the playoffs against Cleveland and put up a decent fight. I don't know if they can put up a decent fight. If they get by Milwaukee and get Cleveland, I can't see them measuring up well against LeBron James right now.
Oh, my goodness. That would be over in 3 games, wouldn't it? Like, they wouldn't even play the 4th game with the way they're playing right now. To say that they would be, I mean, even a team like Washington, I know they'd match up against Cleveland or whatever, but right now, I mean, to me, that wouldn't be, even if they moved on, they would have no chance.
The frustrating
no chance
thing
at all.
also is, what did you think Milwaukee was going to do? Like, going into the series, we knew that Kyle and DeMar would get double teamed at the point of attack. We knew that was coming, and that hasn't changed. And it's like they didn't prepare for it. And that's why game 1, I was tremendously, it was unwatchable for me, game 1. Game 2 was very unpleasant to watch. They squeaked out a win, but it was still very unpleasant. Game 3, again, was unwatchable because it's like they were going into these games not prepared. There's a lack of professionalism, and that was so disappointing.
Well, that's what kind of why last night didn't shock me. Now, it shocked me that they went out and shot 33% and only got 30 points in the first half. I get it. That I wasn't expecting. But when I looked at how deep they had to dig to win Game 2 in what should have been a bounce-back game, should have won it by 15, 20 points, they really had to dig deep in Milwaukee. I mean, I bet they left there thinking, man, we could easily be up 2 games in this series. So that's why last night I was kind of sitting on a dud. Now, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a dud. They lost 104-77. We're chatting with Brian Goldfinger Personal Injury Law right here on Talk Sports Radio, Extra 90.5. I told you that I was a bit of an Indiana Pacer fan. I can't figure out what's worse, getting blown out like that or watching your team blow a 26-point lead on your home court. Those are 2 different types of pain, but both hurt the same. And it was actually to the point where I'm watching that comeback by LeBron James, spectacular again. What do you have, 41, 13, and 12? And I'm watching it, and I'm just thinking, it's almost to the point as a fan, you're not even angry. It's like comical at that point. You're like, yeah, okay, Lance Stevenson, you're going to turn the ball over again. Nobody wants to shoot. Nobody wants to go to the basket. And you're just watching the Cavs go from 26 to 20 to 10 really, really quickly. Like, the Cavaliers are the team that can put up 15 points in about 1 minute and 30 seconds.
It's comical because it happened with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving on the bench and with Richard Jefferson, who can be my grandfather,
That's
playing
right.
significant minutes. That's why it's comical.
Oh, man. What do you make about what's going out on the Western Conference? Golden State look pretty good so far.
You always talk about Golden State. I want to talk about Houston.
Oh, let's do it.
That series,
James
Harden playing hero ball versus Houston. And if you watch Houston's style of play, it's just 3-pointers or layups. There's nothing in between. It's only 3-pointers or layups, and it's a very entertaining series, and it's entertaining, watching. Russell doesn't even, I don't even think he looks for his teammates. Like in that 4th quarter against Houston Game 2, he just shot up everything. He wasn't successful. I want to see how he performs at home. But it's been a very entertaining series.
Yeah, the one that I think a lot of people maybe locally don't have that much interest in because it's on super late, but I've been entertained with Utah and the LA Clippers.
I haven't watched it.
I'll tell you what. I know it is late. But I'll tell you what, they play Game 3 tonight in Utah. I'm kind of Utah. I'm intrigued by Utah because they're just someone different. You've been looking at the same 5 teams for the last 10 years.
If you're a Pacer fan and a Cubs fan, you're going to be a Jazz fan. So,
man, when Michael Jordan hit that shot over Byron Russell, I'll tell you what, I was so upset. You're listening to the regulars right here, Talk Sports Radio, Extra 90.5. It is 1040. Jordan Mercier alongside Colin Teske, our good friend Brian Goldfinger. He's our guest on the first edition of the Peterborough Roundtable, brought to you by Rocky Ridge Drinking Water Limited. I had to get your thoughts on this because when it happened, I thought, oh man, I should call Brian. What was your take on the whole Dr. Dow United flight removal from a couple of weeks ago?
That was terrible. That was awful. Because it could happen to you. It could happen to somebody. I just read on Twitter that somebody had a cruise in the Galapagos. You'll read it after you get off air. This was a $10,000 cruise, and she's flying Air Canada, Canadian woman, and she got bumped her flight, causing her to miss her $10,000 cruise in the Galapagos Islands, which she probably booked years and years in advance because they're A, expensive, and B, not overly frequent. Air passenger rights are a big deal because you go on there and you're at the mercy of the airline, whether it comes to getting you from point A to point B and missing a connecting flight, or in this case a cruise, or in the United flight getting forced off the airline. I just thought it was terrible. I thought it could be dealt with differently. And I think that rules kind of need to change when it comes to passenger rights. Now, there's a flip side to the argument saying, I'm not an airline insider, but I know that it's very difficult to coordinate flights. And it truly is. And weather plays a big factor. And they have these rules with respect to getting staff from A to B, and that takes precedence over, say, one passenger. But there's got to be some sort of balance there with respect to balancing passengers' rights, and that's why I hate flying. I can't stand flying. You get on that plane and you're at the mercy of the pilot. I call it the herding process, like your cattle kind of waiting in line all day. I just don't like that feeling. You relinquish all your power.
I imagine he'll never ever see the inside of a courtroom. But should this doctor be walking away with a sizable chunk from being removed like that?
I would sue.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. I would certainly look at my rights. I don't know exactly what they are, and where did it take place in Illinois or something like that? Illinois. So I don't know state law in Illinois, but I'd look into that. I'd look into American Airlines. I'm sure there's some sort of law or statute there that has some provisions with respect to passenger rights. I'm not familiar with it, but I'd certainly look into it because what happened was totally wrong.
You were digging right into it. Jordan Mercier here alongside Colin Teskey.
I was just amazed, though, Brian, like a company like United Airlines. I don't know the full extent. I don't know how difficult this guy was being, but in today's day and age, you can't take that kind of risk as a company with camera phones and social media because this caught fire.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're not going to hear the end of this for United Airlines, and it just kind of exposed the industry for what it is right now with overbooking flights, which is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you, 110%.
Well,
don't fly. What can I say?
Yeah, don't fly. Take the Madden bus, right? Remember John Madden used to just take his bus
Right.
around because he didn't like it. 10:43. I wanted to get your just last kind of topic that we can cover here because it is that time of year, and I was reading something on your great website where you were talking a little bit about dealing with a lot of motorcycle and bike accidents. This is kind of the year that you really need to kind of be on the lookout for those kind of things.
Yeah,
right?
so right now it's springtime, weather's getting better, people are going to want to take out their motorcycles, go for a bike ride. It's very important, you follow not only the rules of the road, but you have to appreciate that in the battle of car versus motorcycle or car versus bicycle, car always wins. The car, it's a heavier object, just the rules of physics. So you could be in the right with respect to obeying the laws and driving safely. But if motorists around you don't see you or they're not driving safely, you're in trouble. And $1 million settlement or a $1 million judgment, it only goes so far if you can never walk for the rest of your life or you can never hold your child like you want to. All the money in the world is never going to make you whole. So certainly be careful out there on the roads. Certainly respect the rules of the roads, but you got to be very, very mindful of other motorists because their vehicles, if you're riding a bike or a motorcycle, are certainly more powerful than yours.
Does each vehicle have equal rights to the road? Is that kind of how?
Yeah, under the Highway Traffic Act, there bicycles, motorcycles, and cars, they're all governed there. So everyone's got to follow the laws of the Highway Traffic Act. But, you just throw the laws kind of out the window when you're involved in a catastrophic accident because no amount of money is going to make you better or make you whole. So, yeah, somebody could be in the wrong and they could be at fault, but that's never going to help you walk again if you lose your ability to walk on account of an accident.
If somebody comes into a problem, Brian, where can they reach you? How do they get a hold of you?
Check out my website at goldfingerlaw.com, or they can certainly email me at Brian, BRIAN, at goldfingerlaw.com.
Make sure you come back. I want to talk about the NBA Finals. I'm not sure if we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors being in the NBA Finals, but
let's pray.
Be sure to come back, Brian. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's our man right here.
You are a clever, resourceful man, Mr. Bond.
Well, thank you.
Perhaps too clever.
Yeah.
This is the best of the regulars on Talk Sports Radio, Extra 90.5.